I kind of begrudgingly respect just the dedication to not getting better at what you do for a living. Just coast through life.
It probably shouldn't even happen.
If you got it, you got to flaunt it, Acid.
You know what? I got a lot of stuff that I don't want to flaunt, and so I just keep it to myself.
Jeremy is really big into the used mattresses. That's an excellent deal.
He has a used mattress store on the side.
I'm not going to pull the pants down without the pants down cue.
And we found out that Anthony's friends are all 13-year-old boys. Nice.
Clay, how you doing?
Doing a little more poorly after that terrible introduction. I was just fine, to be honest with you.
Hello, Sci-Fi Gangsters. This is a show where we talk about science fiction, comic books, and video games, but really it's just an excuse for me to catch up with my friends and to meet interesting people. I'm Anthony Dennar, media scholar and person who loves talking about Dune. So much that this is our second episode where we talk about Dune. When it first came out, we kind of reviewed it. Now we're going to get into a little bit more academic conversation, perhaps, about the Dune film. But yeah, so before we begin here today, you can always check us out on YouTube and Twitch. We're streaming live on both those platforms. You can also check us out in podcast form, wherever you get your podcasts. Once again, on Spotify, we're in a video format. So there you go. There's an extra incentive to check us out on Spotify. You can also check us out on SciFiGangsters.com. Will Moon, who has written several articles for us, he just put a new article up. It's the top Batman. I guess it's just Batman. I think there's 14 that he put on there. He ranked the best Batman, and he put that. And that, of course, you can check that out on SciFiGangsters.com. Once again, if you know Will, you know he puts a lot of time and effort into it, and his articles are extremely long and very in depth. So definitely check that out on SciFiGangsters.com. But once again, our topic for today is we're talking about Dune. We're coming back. And there's been a couple months. It's actually not on HBO Max anymore. I actually went on HBO Max to watch it for the third time. I was like, I'll watch it one more time before they do the show here today. And it's not on HBO Max anymore, so I wasn't able to watch it. But I definitely remember, and we'll talk about that here today. But let's go ahead and introduce our guest here today. We'll start off with Alexandra Nakelski, who is the director of the Zeitgeist Film Festival. Allie, how you doing?
Hi, thanks for having me.
Well, it's definitely good to have you.
I saw Dune 24 times in the theater and 4 times on DVD. So.
Oh wow! So you just know a little bit, then, not a whole lot.
Just a little bit.
Okay.
Wow, definitely. I've seen Dune very often. Fantastic. We'll get into that here in a second. Our second guest here today is Laurel Rogers, who's a PhD student at the University of Texas at Austin. Laurel, how you doing?
Not too bad. Thank you for having me.
And the reason why I have you both on is because as part of In Media Res, since I am the managing editor of In Media Res, many times I have to just come up with theme week ideas because sometimes we don't get enough coming in. So I'm like, let's do Dune. And of course, I sent out a proposal for that, and we had many people submit, and we did a theme week for In Media Res, and you two both created some articles. We had some other people who wrote some articles that I wanted on the show as well. They couldn't come on. Michael was one of them. Michael, who we've had on several times on this show. She wasn't able to come on this show. But really looking forward to having you both on and discussing Dune further. All right. So we'll go ahead and get to my co-host, someone who I feel like I've only seen on this show now. We rarely get together anymore. Jeremy, how you doing?
I'm good. I've fully prepared myself to come off as a simpleton and have no in-depth critique worthy of this discussion.
Well,
Nice.
To be fair, I'm pretty sure mine's not going to be very academic as well. So, but yeah, good to have you on, Jeremy. But you've been very busy. I've been wanting to watch. I want to go see the Batman with you, but I don't know when we're going to go see it. I'm looking forward to going to see it. I'm trying to stay away from all the reviews. I don't want to hear anything about it, but of course.
Okay, I'll be quiet then.
Okay, well, it's almost impossible on social media now. I mean, almost on Thursday, people were writing about it. I'm like, what's going on? But anyways, I didn't want to hear anything about it. I just wanted to watch it and kind of just enjoy it or not enjoy it, depending on the film. But maybe me and Jeremy will be able to watch it sometime.
Yeah, I'll be back in town next weekend, so I'd be down to go see it then.
All right, well, very good. I might have to see it before then, but we'll go ahead and move on to the producer of the show, Acidtrain. Acid, how you doing?
I am exhausted. This week has been absolutely a train wreck. No pun intended. So it's been busy. I've had a lot of things going on, but all for the best. But we'll catch up with that in a minute, I'm sure. So yeah, but doing good overall.
I think me and you have had very similar weeks. It has not been a good week for me as well.
We hadn't played Halo this week.
We haven't played Halo.
I missed
I've been
Halo.
playing a little bit during the day because I've been homesick all week.
Yeah.
So that's been fantastic. So I've been playing Halo during the day. But we'll get that here in a second. So yeah, once again, today's topic is Dune, but we always start off the show by catching up with each other because the whole point of this podcast, I told Jeremy one day, I said to Jeremy, if we're going to do a podcast, I want to make sure that we're using it to catch up with each other, especially during the pandemic where we don't get to see each other that much. And so yeah, that's the whole point of the show. So I'll go ahead and go first. What's new with me? I have been sick all week and my whole family has been sick. We had some sort of stomach bug and Acid. I'm sure you're aware as a parent, when your kids are sick, when you're also sick and you're all equally sick, it is a miserable experience.
It's so bad. Yeah.
Sometimes one person in the family's sick and everybody else can take care of that person, or it's like everyone's revolving in. But when everybody, all four of us, are throwing up all day, that is a miserable experience because you're sick, but you also have to take care of the kids who are sick and they're crying. And there's just it was a miserable experience, but I actually had to go into work today, got to get some stuff done. So that wasn't very fun, but for the most part, called in sick all week, kind of in and out of not wanting to eat things and then being very hungry and then regretting that I ate something. So that's always a very fun experience. So I feel like I'm finally recovered. I actually felt like I was doing well. And then I was like, you know what? I'll work out. I feel good. I'll work out. So I worked out and then I regretted it immediately. And I feel like it was definitely one of those things where it's like, man, I've already missed like 5 days of working out. I need to get back in there. And definitely was not fun. So been kind of dealing with that whole situation. But that's what's new with me. We'll kind of move on to Allie. Allie, what's new with you?
Well, did see the Batman last night at a premiere. It's just a Batman, in my opinion. Cyrano was amazing. Why it's not up for more Academy Awards, I'm very upset with that. Peter Dinklage was amazing, and he's not up for any awards. I'm really pissed off about that. And then the short films, the Academy Live Shorts, there is one sci-fi film, Please Hold, was really good. I don't think it's going to win, but it's good to see a sci-fi short up for an award. It rarely ever is. This genre is usually overlooked. So yeah, definitely if anyone can go see the live action shorts, the Academy shortlisted films, go see those. And Cyrano are my picks of the week.
Well, there you go. Excellent. Definitely some movies for you to watch. Some
So
homework assignments.
Who does Peter Dinklage play in the Batman? I had no idea he was.
No, I'm saying Cyrano.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
The Batman, I had to pass. I don't want to give spoilers. I don't want to disappoint you guys. I did not like it at all, but
I do want to see Cyrano. Is it out?
Yeah, it's out. Go see it before it's out.
Okay.
Well, there you go. Plenty of films for you to watch. All right, so we'll move on to Laurel. Laurel, what's new with you?
Not a ton. I mean, as we all are super busy with everything going on. I did just recently finish Yellow Jackets. I know I'm a little bit behind on that show coming out, but I thought it was incredible. I cannot wait for season 2. It better come. I'm really on tenterhooks here.
I've heard a lot of good things about Yellow Jackets. There's way too much television. There's just way too much. I can't catch up with everything. Obviously, I'm still watching Snowpiercer, and I'm watching it with my wife, so we watch it on a snail pace because we rarely have nights together. So we watch an episode, and we wait a couple of weeks, and we'll watch another episode. And love Snowpiercer. It's probably the best sci-fi show since Battlestar Galactica. It really probably is. So I love that.
Which Battlestar Galactica?
The newer one. The newer Battlestar
Okay.
Galactica. Not a fan of Battlestar Galactica?
I'm a fan of the original Battlestar
Oh.
Galactica.
Was it because they made Starbuck a woman?
Well, hey, we can talk about that. Well, that's Laurel's contribution to In Media Res was the changing of Dr. Kynes. So I'm interested. Well, we're going to get to that when we get to our conversation. That's something I wanted to ask her about.
Perhaps we'll get to that. But I really feel so. Battlestar Galactica, real quick, since we're on this topic, I always felt like Battlestar Galactica was some of the best, well-written science fiction. Like just in terms of the stories. The only thing about Battlestar Galactica, which became very frustrating at this, especially when it got to the end of the series, is it was just too bleak. It was just bleak after bleak after bleak after bleak with no real, like, just give me a joyful episode. Like, I don't want to be hiding it like in my corner shaking after every episode. I want to there's got to be some sort of like joy that happens in this series. And after a while, I just felt like it kept getting darker and darker and darker.
Wait till you see the Batman.
Well, there you go. Yeah. Looking forward to that.
I agree, because like I grew up, I don't know how old you are, Anthony. I'm 46, will be 47. So I grew up with like Buck Rogers, Flash Gordon, and my science fiction was fun. And so you had, you did have stuff like Soylent Green and really bleak stuff coming out of the 70s. But and that was part of my criticism of Dune versus the David Lynch Dune, is that like there's no fun elements anymore. And they try to shoehorn some in with, I believe, Jason Momoa. But I do like my fun elements in my sci-fi. I really do. So I agree with you.
And I think that's what makes Star Trek so great, right? So every time if we're going to refer to Star Trek, it's because there is a lot of joy in Star Trek. There's a lot of episodes where it's just like, oh, we're going to have a fun episode this time. And I feel like science fiction needs that more often. And hopefully the new Picard series will have a little bit more than that. I'm a little the season, I should say, for Picard. I'm optimistic about the next season of Picard. Hopefully they'll sort of fix a lot of the.
Is Patrick Stewart in that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Too bad he wasn't in the new Dune, like he was in the 84 Dune.
That is true.
Having Josh Brolin play Gurney, but that's when we get to me. That's one of the things we'll be talking about.
Well, fantastic.
Laurel, once again, I'll point you to Doctor Who, Anthony, if you want joy and happiness.
Fair enough. Yeah. Once again, I'll say it again. I do not. My nerd heart does not have enough room for another science fiction series like Doctor Who. I can't fill that in. But I completely understand what you're saying. But Laurel, is there anything else that you want to say? I feel like we've sort of went off on a tangent on that. But yeah, the Yellow Jackets. That's right. You were talking about Yellow Jackets. I've heard a lot about Yellow Jackets. That's where they all eat each other, right? I don't know.
Some of them do. I guess.
Well, there you go. Spoiler alert.
It's in the first episode. It's not really a spoiler.
Oh, wow.
Wait a minute. What is this?
So, Laurel, did you want to do a quick synopsis on Yellow Jackets?
Sure. So it's in the 90s, there was a high school girls soccer team that were on their way to nationals when their plane crashes in the mountains, and they're there for 19 months. And it kind of alternates between, them in the present day and them when they're, in the woods. You're just kind of trying to find out what's going on, what happened then. There's kind of some maybe spooky supernatural type stuff going on. Great. Everyone in it is excellent. Great performances.
All right, well, very good. Yellow Jackets, another TV show for you to watch. We'll go on and move on to Jeremy. Jeremy, what's new with you?
Not too much. I feel like all I've been doing is working and, watching the news like everybody else. I guess I since our last show, I have played Returnal a little bit. So I've had it for a while. Finally got around to playing it on PS5. I kind of hate it, but
well, very good, excellent.
Yeah. It's I'm not a gamer, right? I just
play a lot of, for not being a gamer, you do play a lot of video games. I will say that, Joe.
I just want the story. Like, I have zero interest in refining how I play, right? So like when it's the developers go out of their way to kill you and like do something like that, it annoys me. So
like Elden Ring
yeah,
or Dark Souls.
I'm not even gonna try to play any of those. But yeah, so I kind of hate it, but it's kind of a cool game.
All right, well, there's Jeremy's review. I kind of hate it, but it's a kind of a good game. There you go. Excellent. All right, Acid, what's new with you?
Oh, a lot. There's a lot. I guess top of the list right now is today they called me and I did not get the job that I applied for, which is fine because I think I was going to turn it down anyway. So this just made it a little easier. But on a positive note, I am going to Combo Breaker in May, which is the fighting game community the fighting game conference in Chicago. So I'm excited about that. I'm also competing in their national tournament while I'm there. So hopefully I can win some cash. That'd be nice.
What game are you competing in?
Mortal Kombat 11 is what I'll be attempting to beat everyone in for the grand prize. I think the grand prize is like $50,000. So hopefully I can get at least $5 of that. That'd be kind of nice.
So what characters or what level of the game can you choose a character to play?
What do you mean, what level?
Can you take like Fire God Liu Kang?
No, this is straight, but yeah, this is your straight 1v1 right out of the box. No, I mean, if you've played it, you can't put any of the little emblems in there to boost your character. This is all straight basic vanilla people. So there's going to be about 6,000 people there. I don't think all of them are competing. Of course, it's all different fighting games. So, I mean, you've got Street Fighter, you've got Tekken, you've got Blaze Blue, there's tons of games that people compete in. This is just more of the fun one where everybody just kind of comes together and, drinks and eats and makes fun of each other and tries to win some cash and that kind of stuff. But I am going with CJ, so I'm going with MD Soul. We're going, and a couple of his friends. So another person we've had on the show a few times. But yeah, so that's the big news, I guess. I got a PS5 controller for my computer, and I really like it. And I'm enjoying this beautiful White Claw inspired by Anthony.
Fantastic. Thank you.
It is mango. I don't know if you've had the mango, but it's quite refreshing. So
once again, you're not drinking it the way I drink it. You have to have a whole lime in there. You pour lime juice in there, and then you put the White Claw in there.
Well, I have another one. Maybe I'll try that tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. Well, fantastic.
Oh, and I have lost 10 pounds.
Well, congratulations.
I have exercised because you couldn't. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Well, fantastic. Well, I've lost 10 pounds not exercising.
In another way, yeah.
In another way, definitely. I would not be surprised if I lost at least 5 pounds. At least 5 pounds.
You probably did.
Coincidentally, I've gained 15 pounds, so we're still a zero-sum game.
There you go.
Well, fantastic.
Fantastic.
Well, as long as we're all working together on this.
There you
Fantastic. All right, so let's go ahead and get to our main topic here today, and that's Dune. And what we're going to do here is kind of just like a little round robin situation. We'll take turns talking about whatever we want to talk about when it comes to the film Dune. And I kind of want to just hear what our guests have. We'll start with our guests first. So we'll actually start off with Allie. Allie, what do you want to talk about with Dune?
Okay, well, I don't know. I brought all my scholarly things, but I'm gonna speak from the heart here. Okay, what I found, everybody bags on the David Lynch film. Okay. And I'm really upset about that because I thought it was really well made, and the studio hacked it to pieces editing it. Nowadays it'd be 3 hours, 4 hours long, nobody cares. And I also love Jodorowsky's version that he attempted to make. And I hope you guys saw Jodorowsky's Dune, the documentary. And I really am trying to be an advocate for Lynch's film to have a new appreciation after this Dune came out, because I really feel Lynch followed Frank Herbert's vision as to how the world should be built and how it should be imagined. Now, I know things change, and that was part of my in media res article, was how does this film represent the zeitgeist of today? And I talked about how everything was very introverted, where in the 80s things were bold. Paul Atreides with Kyle MacLachlan, Father, the sleeper has awoken. And here everything is very, withdrawn and everything's hidden behind masks, very COVID imagery. So of course things aren't going to be as bold as they were in the 80s. But I feel Dune is a bold story. So having it, I went with a friend who knows nothing about Dune, and he was like, I have no idea what's going on. I don't know who these people are. I don't care who these people are. And I had to explain to him everything. And me being a fan, knowing, the Bene Gesserits, the history of the intelligent machines taking over humanity, and then the mining space guild and the Bene Gesserit sisters and the two schools of thought and human development. That wasn't my first thing. Was how Zendaya was narrating, and she said, my people have been oppressed. I was like, oh, so is this about the spice, or is this about post-colonial commentary here? Is this about the Fremen being oppressed? Which of course, like, they were by the Harkonnens, not the Harkonnens. Okay, don't even get me started on Harkonnen. What the heck is that? It's Harkonnen. So that pissed me off right off the bat. And I was like, the spice, the first thing is the spice must flow. That's still the line today. And I don't feel that this story really concentrated on it. And it was like, it's a psychedelic. It is about expanding your mind, which I'm all about. It's folding space and time. And I feel like they just didn't even get into what the spice was about. Second, my second biggest, don't even get me started on Jason Momoa. It's like, oh, we are going to have the sci-fi nerds and the Hollywood Aquaman people. Let's bring in Jason Momoa. And here's Timothée Chalamet talking about his dreams, and awesome. And then he's like, oh, did you gain muscle? Oh, I did. No. Ha. It's like that trailer that they make now. It stops on a one-liner. We're all supposed to laugh. So I felt they shoehorned in Momoa and Josh Brolin with their one-liners. And then like, oh, this is where we scrub our ass with sand. Like, what were these lines? This is Dune. This is like, 19th century splendor and the poetic Shakespearean of, Max von Sydow and Patrick Stewart of the 1984 version. And now we're talking about scrubbing our ass with sand. And Poe from Star Wars was terrible as Duke Leto. Okay. Lastly, I'm sorry I'm going on a tirade. Lady Jessica, oh my God, if she cried one more time, first of all, she's a Bene Gesserit. Why is she crying like a baby, like wringing her hands and like, oh, she's supposed to be vain and arrogant because she, her son is the Kwisatz Haderach, and the vanity is supposed to be there, and she's crying and hand wringing. I'm going to do a montage for my podcast of her like crying and okay, so she's crying. This is Dune. You don't waste your water. And she's crying the whole time. And then I was laughing in the tent where Timothée Chalamet is like, oh, it's recycled tears. Well, yeah, because she's been crying the whole time. You have water for the next month. So I really, the portrayal of women in this, I felt was so worse than 1984. Like Francesca Annis, who was, she'd been married to Ray Fiennes. She was like regal and royal and strong, and she cried once when she knew her husband died. Lady Jessica in this one was crying the whole freaking time. And I said, if we're supposed to be portraying new minorities and new ethnicities and women better in today's day and age, this was not it. Not at all. I felt like she's, as a Bene Gesserit sister, I would have kicked her out first thing. So I really felt like they were trying to please the sci-fi fans and please Hollywood fans. And I felt like the two weren't congruent. And then my big problem was with Lady Jessica and her crying the whole time. And like belittling Paul, like people were like, oh, did you get muscle? Oh, he's just a boy, haha. Where like in the 1984 version, Kyle MacLachlan like had value and he had confidence. And poor Chalamet, everybody's dogging on him. I was like, geez, he's supposed to be the prophet, and everybody's like, oh, you're just a boy. Law. So yeah, not a fan.
Well, fantastic. Well, it seems like, Allie, you have a lot of things you loved about the film. And no, I'll agree that one of the things that I found very disappointing about Dune is how kind of boring the costume is. Like the costume,
right?
I mean,
costumes. What?
Yeah, they're pretty bland. They're great. I guess I understand that, like, practically speaking, you want to be able to blend in with the environment, but they were pretty boring in a lot of ways. Very generic sci-fi.
Too much gauze, though. You want to blend in with the environment, then why do they have all this flowy stuff that could get caught in the desert? Like, I thought it was more minimalistic in Lynch's Dune when they were finally wearing their suits, their still suits. Like, what was with the extra capey gauze stuff? And then he was kind of Jesus-y in his linen pants with his mom in their pajamas. And I was like, what's this like Jesus symbolism when he's like, I can make a paradise with the wave of my hand, Dr. Kynes. And why are they whispering all the time? Is that because they didn't do the voiceovers like they did in the Lynch film? Because they're always like whispering. And it's like, why are you whispering? I don't understand. Like, there were some choices made that I don't know what I want to interview Denis Villeneuve and really ask him these things. Be like, what were these choices? Like, really, sorry. I'm so pissed.
No, fantastic. We'll go ahead and go on to Laurel. Is there anything, what do you want to talk about?
I feel like there's so much to follow up on with everything that you said. I mean, I think I had kind of the opposite experience when I went to see it. When I went with some people who knew like a very little bit and some people who knew absolutely nothing, and they understood it. They liked it. I liked it too. You know, I like his sci-fi films. I think they're very visually, you know, their sense of scale, I think, is really just really monumental. Especially seeing it on IMAX. You know, I loved that. I think I also just want to point out that on the Jason Momoa point, right? He comes from like a sci-fi lineage, right? His sort of start was in Stargate Atlantis. And so I think, you know, there's maybe drawing on a little bit of that in there, which I have been watching, you know, Stargate Atlantis since I was very young. So I appreciated seeing that. Yeah, I mean, I think maybe we should talk more about what you thought, and then we'll come back around to the kind of things that I was writing about in media res, because I think that's more about kind of how other people felt about it, less how you know, how we felt about it. So maybe we can circle back around to that.
Well, yeah, no, I think Jason Momoa, there's a place for him in this world, and there's a place for Oscar Isaacs, but it wasn't congruent with like Timothée Chalamet, who's a film festival indie darling, you know, Call Me by Your Name, and Lady Jessica Rebecca, whatever her name is, like she's a Swedish actress. So I didn't feel like they were all like congruent on the level of acting. Like, is this going to be a campy sci-fi, or is this more cerebral? Whereas the David Lynch film, I felt like they were all, you know, you had Linda Hunt, who just came out of winning Year of Living Dangerously. She won the Academy Award in Peter Veer's film. So I feel like they were all in this congruent vision of what the film should be. Whereas this Dune, I felt like you had Josh Brolin and his style of acting over here, and then you had, you know, the Bene Gesserit mother, her style of acting, and Skarsgård style of acting. I didn't feel they were all like congruently on the same level of the approach to the material, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, so the things that we'll get to hear you here in a second, because I'm interested to hear what you have to say, because you are such a huge Dune fan. But as someone who I didn't read any of the books. Obviously, I watched the 1984 Dune with all its hilariousness. Which my favorite part of the whole film is the end credit scene where it's a soap opera song at the end. Does everyone remember that end credit scene where it's like this soap opera song at the end?
It's like Toto, I thought, did that. Toto did that interlude, I think you're right. And Brian Eno did the most of the score too. Yeah, I mean, I liked it. I liked that end credit thing. But what I really liked was the Baron and the, you know, bringing the flying fat man and his boils and his grossness and his incestual thing with Fade Sting. And, you know, I just felt like the Harkonnens were a force to be reckoned with in the Lynch film, where this one, it was just, they were kind of like ogreish and evil, but they were so much more colorful and more fun villainy in the 84 version. And gross. And what was with the cat in the 84 version? Like, just, it was weird. I felt David Lynch was perfect because there's so much weirdness in the book. And this was kind of like not weird at all. It was kind of like really like tame, I feel.
All right, Jeremy, what do you got?
I mean, I don't know if I have anything new from the last time we talked. So I like the movie, and I like Lynch's version. I do feel like I haven't done the drugs required to fully understand Lynch. And not just in Dune, but in pretty much everything he does. So I do think this version respects the political aspect of Dune, of the books, better than Lynch's version. I thought that, like, I could fully see if someone had no background in the world who would be completely confused by the movie and what was going on. So I could fully understand that. Yeah, I like the casting. I think Stellan Skarsgård is one of the best working actors today. I like pretty much everybody in it. I honestly didn't notice that much crying, but I wasn't really looking.
You need to watch my podcast because we're gonna have a little like counter and we're gonna montage every time she cries, and she's like, she's like cowering in front of the Reverend Mother, and she's like about to talk to her husband about Paul and his power, and she's crying in the tent, and she's crying. Oh my God. Like, if we did we should do a drinking game. Seriously, come on for my podcast. We'll do a drinking game and we'll be wasted. Because she cried throughout the entire thing.
Oh my God.
And then just like the scene in the helicopter in Lynch's where he finally takes off her gag and she's like, you don't have to fight over me. And then he kills him. And this one, she's like, kill him now. There was just so much, like, Lady Jessica had so much just panache in the original. And this one, she was just not regal. She's a Bene Gesserit. Oh my God. Like, I love the Bene Gesserit sisters, and she is such a poor representation of these powerful women. Don't get me started.
One of the things I did really like about the film, and we'll get to Laurel here in a second. You can talk about what you wrote about in Media Res. And unfortunately, we didn't get to have Michael on the show because she talks a lot about some of the sort of like some of the negative homophobic stereotypes that are in both the Lynch version and even in this new version as well. And she kind of writes about that a little bit. But one thing that I did like from the new Dune is sort of like the depiction of the science fiction technology and how unique this is from other science fiction shows. So the use of the shielding, where you have to swing the blade in a particular manner to get through the shields, and how even the bombs have to sort of drill into the shields in order to get through. Just kind of a unique way of depicting this shielding technology and ways to go get around the shielding technology. I thought that was a lot of fun versus just the 1984, the little box thing. But yeah, I definitely enjoyed that.
It was rotoscoped. You know that's hand drawn. The shields were, and the eyes. That was hand drawn, like old school Tron. They did it by hand, which I was really impressed with.
All right, well, fantastic. Laurel, what you could talk about a little bit about what you wrote about in your article.
Sure. Yeah. My sort of general research interests are focused on fandom, and nostalgia, and sort of one of the kind of, and the way that nostalgia informs like people's reactions to new reboots, remakes, things like that. And something that we see a lot in these sort of reboots and remakes are these like representational changes, right? Adding more people of color, adding more women into sort of central roles. And often, especially with kind of big sci-fi franchises, when that happens, we see a lot of fan like pushback on the internet, a lot of tweets, a lot of YouTube comments, stuff like that. And so when I looked at the Dune before it came out, I thought like, wow, this is actually quite a diverse cast. And I was expecting to see that same sort of reaction to it. But really, there was not. There was hardly any of that kind of reaction. If anything, there was a little bit of sort of reaction against the lack of Middle Eastern and North African actors in main roles. And I was just really interested in like, what makes this film different from these other films that we've seen, like, Ghostbusters is kind of the quintessential example, the 2016 Ghostbusters. And I still don't really know the answer, but I think there is sort of something to the nature of Dune as a text that is maybe different than, something like a Star Wars, which not to say that Dune hasn't been popular, but like obviously it has been. But there's sort of a different level to the kind of popularity of Star Wars versus something like Dune, which has been a little bit more maybe subcultural, a little bit more underground.
Yeah, it's highbrow. It's highbrow science fiction compared to Star Wars, for sure.
Yeah, like you actually have to read books to get
Yeah,
into
you have to like.
Star
I've
Wars,
read
you kinda
all
get
the
for free.
books, and like the Butlerian Jihad. Like I've read even his son's books. I read all the books.
That's
So-
dedication.
I don't know why Star Wars fans are getting hurt here, but it's like,
I mean, I'm a Star Wars fan, but it's easy to be a Star Wars fan. I mean,
I'm a Star Wars
different.
fan too, but yeah, there's definitely I'm critical of the new series for sure. As much as I love Kylo Ren, I feel, and this is something I want to ask you in your research, Laurel, because my master's thesis was on remakes being postmodern pastiche, and I did this because I saw a lot of my beloved things that I grew up with becoming retooled and reformatted, and I felt violated. I really did, because nostalgia is a powerful thing. And I felt like, oh, well, yours growing up wasn't good enough. Let's add this, this, and that. Now it's better. And that makes me feel very upset because it was so sacred to me. These things I grew up with, they meant something to me. And now to be told they're not good enough, let's reimagine it. And oh, now it's better. So yeah, I mean, I understand the pushback, especially for sci-fi. Sci-fi fans, like, we're nerds, we're geeks. If we grew up with something, we loved it, don't F with it, like, please, you know? And so and I'm going to go into maybe some controversial territory here, but this is something I wanted to ask you in your research, is that I feel diversity, and it's funny because we're an all white panel here, diversity should be organic. I feel that, you know, Billy D. Williams was cast as Lando because he was Billy D, not because he was Black, and we need to tick that box and make it more diverse. Or Tina Turner was in, you know, Mad Max Thunderdome, not because she was Black, because she was Tina Turner. Whereas now they're like, oh, we need to have a diverse cast. What are we going to do? But if you're like just doing it to do it, then it's not authentic and organic. And I feel that it's actually detrimental and antithetical to the whole point of having diversity, is having it shoehorned in. And so I know I may be the voice of, you know, minority here, but I feel that it needs to be organic. And I feel Dr. Kynes in Dune, I have no problem changing the race or the sex of somebody as long as they're awesome. You gotta live up to Max von Sydow. And people gave him flack for playing Ming the Merciless, playing an Asian guy in, you know, 1980. So I have no problem as long as they give an epic performance. And I don't feel her performance was epic. But then again, I don't think anybody was epic, because this was a very toned down monochrome film. And I agree with you, Denis Villeneuve, I loved Arrival. In fact, I think Arrival should have been up for Best Picture, not Dune. I thought Arrival was light years better. And his short film Next Floor, I showed that in my second year film festival. So I think Denis is amazing, but I think the studio maybe pressured him into making some of these decisions that we're discussing today.
It's interesting. Yeah. Kristen Warner has this concept called plastic representation, which is sort of dealing with this idea of like basically when you do colorblind casting, but you're putting, you know, people into roles that aren't written for the kind of, you know, history and culture around that.
Who wrote that? Because that's interesting. Who?
Yeah. Kristen Warner.
Kristen Warner. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm such a nerd.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because then to me, it's like, I have no problem with like having a diverse cast, but if you can tell, and my friend from Sri Lanka, when we were watching the Eternals, he's like, I just feel like they were just ticking boxes here. Like just to, we got to represent, you know, Eastern, you know, Indian, and we got to represent this. And then at the end of the day, it's just a mishmash. And it's like, ugh. So I'm
think
really
the problem with Eternals is there's other problems with Eternals.
Of course. But I'm talking about like the marketing, when we because we're nerds, we go to the AMC, we have the A stubs list or whatever. And he's like, you know, I don't care if I'm represented as a Sri Lankan in every single Hollywood film that comes out. I can still go. I've been enjoying the films for 40 years. Like I can enjoy them without seeing a Sri Lankan. He's like, if there is, I hope that they're a good actor, and I hope that it's like it's organic to the story. And I thought that was interesting. And I was like, I didn't think of it that way. And now I'm thinking of it every time I see a poster. I'm like, oh, did they just have a checklist? And they're like, oh, we got to have a woman. Like in the Batman, they have I don't want to spoil it, but you'll see. Like I'm interested in keeping in touch with you, Laurel, after you see the Batman, because it's the same thing with Dune. They have the same kind of casting. And it's like, okay, well, if they're doing a great performance, fine. But if it's just to tick a box, then I'm like, that's antithetical to, I think, the whole point.
Yeah,
I think there's a little bit. Yeah, go ahead, Laurel. Sorry.
Oh, I was just, also going to say that like we do also sometimes have to consider the kind of structural issues with asking for something like organic representation to happen. I agree that like plastic representation does nothing, but I think we also but like there also has to be efforts to sort of make opportunities for actors to like be able to get to that stage where we can have them come in for their performance because they're like available and known. It's really hard.
Yeah, so obviously representation is not enough, right? That's not enough, right? You need to have, especially when it's not enough when you have a white dude who's continually making the decisions in the film, right? I mean,
right, it's a white savior anyway. So to me, that's hilarious in Dune. He's the prophet. It's a white man anyway. So what difference if Dr. Kynes is black or not? Like
from what here's the thing about Dune. From what I understand about Dune, and Jeremy, you could tell me about this. In Dune, the whole white savior thing is a charade, right? It's made up by them, right? He's not actually a white savior. He's tricking them. Isn't that correct, Jeremy?
I wouldn't say tricking them. No.
No, the Bene Gesserit sisters have been crossing bloodlines to get to this point where the guild, the men, because I don't know if you've read the Butlerian Jihad, men need spice to fold space and time and do all this, but the women have the powers in their own minds because they're evolved, but there's a place they can't go. And Paul Atreides, through drinking the water of life and training with the Bene Gesserits, he folds both of the school of thoughts together. So he represents both the Bene Gesserits and the Space Guild. So he is the one that can bring rain to Arrakis and change, the face of their history, the course of their future. So he is the prophet. I mean,
and there is power in the bloodline. I mean, his children, and it gets weird after a couple books, but yeah.
Right. But I think what Anthony is pointing to is that like this is also a critique of the kind of religious myths that are harnessed to like control people.
Yeah.
So this isn't like his ability to come into this society and have a role of power is nothing inherent in him. It's a seed that's been planted in this society through like kind of religious figures coming in and planting these narratives, so that when he gets there, he's able to.
Well, that's what I find interesting is that scene in the Ornithoraptor where he's like, they're saying what they're being told to say. And he is the reluctant prophet. Whereas in the 84 one, he just owned it. He's like, yeah, I'm the prophet. Let's go with it. So I thought it would have been really smart for this movie to go with that, down that rabbit hole of the reluctant prophet, of religion being, kind of a narrative that's spun by generations and told, and like to question that. And I feel like it didn't do that enough. Because I agree exactly with what you're saying. It's like, they come out and they're all like praising him, and the Bene Gesserits told them that he's the one, and he's reluctant. And I would have loved to see more of that. I really would have liked to see more of that. Maybe in the second
we
film.
might in the second, right? I think one of the limitations on this movie is that it has to be so much world building, right? All of the interesting stuff happens later. But we had to have this whole, 3-hour movie to get to the point where we can now have the second movie where we're going to get, these sort of interesting critiques or subversions that we can't get until we've, had that set up.
Yeah, and all along, this first one was it was always said that it was just about building the world to tell the story. I mean, it's not a Peter Jackson Lord of the Rings hop right in kind of.
But aren't you mad, Jeremy, that Shitout Mapes didn't warn them of the traitor of Dr. Ewing? Because Linda Hunt, that was her whole point, was that he saved her life from the thing, and she's like, oh, now a life for a life. There's a traitor amongst you. And that would have been like so cool. But it's like, oh, all of a sudden Dr. Ewing's a traitor. Whereas in the Lynch version, we knew there was something gonna happen. But Shitout Mapes didn't have anything to do in this film. And then she's dead. Like, okay, well, why did we need her in the first place? Because she was supposed to tell Paul that there's a traitor.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely things. Yeah, there's definitely things that there's always creative choices I'd make differently. I'm not entirely sure why stuff like that was left out, but I don't know. I his track record. I trust him with where he's going with it.
Very good. Is there anything else anybody wants to say about the film? Laurel, is there anything else you want to say?
No.
I like the set design. I liked most of the special effects looked fantastic.
Hans Zimmer did a great job. I thought the score was fantastic.
Is it as cool as Blade Runner 2049? No. And in my opinion, Blade Runner 2049 is one of the greatest music scores ever, just in terms of how you feel the score. Like it's part of the environment and it like shakes you to the core. I remember that opening scene where the eye opens up in Blade Runner 2049 when that siren just blails. You're just like, here we go. Yeah, all right. This is what I enjoy. But but I still liked the Dune version of it. But yeah.
So you're saying you like Blade Runner better than Dune as a coherent vision?
Yeah, I did. Yes, I also liked Arrival. Arrival was very good as well.
Loved Arrival.
Yeah, it was very good. Yeah, Jeremy, what are you looking forward to the most in the next Dune film?
So given that I already said I like the movie, I'm looking forward to the story actually starting.
Okay, sure.
Right? I hope there's some romance between Chani and Paul because, I'm so bored out of my head with these two already. Like there needs to be some kind of make-out scene. I feel like we're so watered down with drugs and sex and everything nowadays. It's like we don't want to offend people. We can't have too much sex. Don't talk about drugs. Like I hope they get as high on spice as they can and do it. Like that's what I'm waiting for. I'll tell you that because I'm bored out of my head already.
All right. Well, some drug use.
Zendaya's agent might hold her off on that since her other show is essentially that's all it is.
That's true. That is true. Laurel, what are you looking forward to the most in the next Dune film?
I'm looking forward to the introduction of more female characters. I love Chani. I love Alia. And we've been hearing so much in the press about how much Villeneuve loves Zendaya. So I'm hoping to see like more than just a perfume commercial from her.
Right? It was like, how many times we got to see her sandals like walking off from like...
Yeah, looking over her shoulder.
Such a perfume commercial. That is such a funny way of putting it. And can you wear sandals like that in Arrakis? I was very confused as to literally, like, I thought you could only wear still suits. What's with the, the flowy dress and the sandals in the perfume commercial? But what about House Shalhoub? We want to talk about the worm and the water of life, and they're supposed to go worm riding, and we're supposed to Lady Jessica drinks the water, becomes their Bene Gesserit mother. Like, we need to see all these things happen. Come on, stop crying. Let's get the Harkonnens.
I actually thought they would make it to that point to where we would see the first water ritual. And I thought that's where he was going to cut it. But
yeah.
Do some surfing on some worms. That's all I want to see, right?
That's what we got to see. We need to
ride the worm.
So we want more worms, more drugs, more making out, more plot. Let's go.
More Power Ranger scenes where he's just fighting a whole bunch of people. Have you seen the YouTube video where it plays the Power Rangers theme over that fight scene where he's dreaming about fighting all those people?
Oh, yeah. No, I saw the thing on Reddit where they replaced Timothy Chalamet with Elmo in all the scenes.
Well, there you go. Something else to looking forward to as well.
But Laurel, I'm going to keep in touch with you because I want to talk more about this plastic representation and your work on Dr. Kynes and all that. I thought that was very interesting.
Thank you.
All right. Well, that is our show for today. Thank you so much, everybody. Ali and Laurel, and of course, Jeremy and Acidtrain for being here today. We talked about Dune. Once again, you can check us out on SciFiGangsters.com. We're streaming live on YouTube and Twitch, and you can also check us out in podcast form, wherever you get your podcast. But for Ali, Laurel, Jeremy, and Acidtrain, I'm Anthony Dinar. Goodbye, everybody.
Night.